everyone, and welcome to Getting Into Terraform episode 9, where we finally are out of our refactoring mess, refactoring slop, and we are moving on, this time with HCP Terraform. Now, if you've never joined us for a Getting Into series before, we learn Terraform in the most inefficient, detailed way possible. So this is not a certification course. This is not a Terraform 101. I can't even say it is because basically just find ways to how we Terraform. But if you haven't been on one of these before, we'd love for you to
Rosemary, your audio is cutting out. It started a bit early this week.
Yes. If you haven't joined us before, we are we would love for you to participate in the chat. As you do, though, be welcoming, respectful, and professional. We like to hear from you, tips, tricks, things that we should look for, resources, questions. Please do put them in the chat. I'm going to preface this very early on. If you are joining and asking about certifications, we do not offer certification vouchers on this. But if you are interested in certifications, check out the certification webinars. There are certification webinars that you can check out. They do not necessarily have vouchers, but they'll help you prepare for your certification of choice. Now, if you missed our previous episodes, we do have previous episodes on a playlist. It's hashi.co/getting into Terraform. Please stand by. We had some access control concerns, so I may or may not be able to update this playlist very quickly, but do check out the playlist. It has all of the previous episodes. And we also have a repository, so you can go ahead to HashiCorp Dev Advocates on GitHub and check out the Getting Into Terraform repository. Oh, that was a lot of housekeeping. I am going to turn my camera back on because that's awkward. And I don't know what's going on here. But anyway, how are you doing, Richard?
I'm doing well. I'll apologize in advance. I think there's a cricket somewhere in my office.
What's going on this morning? The internet is spotty. You have a cricket. We have friends joining in the chat. Hello, friends. On LinkedIn. Those who are on LinkedIn, I'm sorry, we might not get to your question that quickly because the way that the feed comes into our platform, it may or may not show up immediately. So it has a slight delay. If we don't see it or it just doesn't come in, we will go back to it later. But welcome, friends. Welcome, friends.
I mean, it's just AM. He's barely a friend.
You'd be cute. All right. So let's talk about what we were doing. Richard, what have you learned in the past 8 episodes?
8 episodes. I know in the last 2 or 3, I learned quite a bit about refactoring, moving resources between states, like doing imports, kind of abandoning some of the removed blocks that we used, trying to get Bob to do a lot of this for us. Some fancy CLI tool commands with the Terraform state show and list, and kind of wrangling resources individually to get the IDs for that. Before that, we talked about modules, resources, versioning numbers, your incorrect opinion on the right way to do versioning, but I won't hold that against you.
What? Hold on. What is my incorrect way of doing versioning?
I think I think you said that you leave it on the like update to the major version, like update within the major version, and just let it auto update whenever it pulls in kind of newer minor versions. And my stance was I leave everything pinned to exactly the version I want, and I never change it unless there's a CVE.
Yes, the soft constraint. That's correct.
Yes,
the soft constraint. I do the soft constraint, and then Rich is just like, I just keep it there.
Yeah. It worked that one time I needed it to work. I'm never going to change it again until I have to.
I mean, we could have a fight about soft constraints, but I don't know if it's worth it. I just personally think the longer you wait for any minor version, like between minor versions, the more likely you're going to break something when it actually is a major version upgrade, at least in my opinion. So that's why I always just let Terraform just have upgrades to at least the minor version.
I feel like that's just admitting that minor versions are a lie, because like the amount of work it takes me to go from like minor version like 1 to 100 should be effectively 0 because they're minor versions, and then from 100 to like 2.0, like that should be the same as if I went from 1.0 directly to 2.0.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a like a practice for me, and it maybe that's negligible. Maybe it's negligible, but I want to take advantage of the new features, right? Yeah, and like we take for granted that people should theoretically have semantic versioning, but like who actually follows it that diligently? Like maybe don't at me in the chat, folks, but like who's actually following semantic versioning to its intended purpose, right? I don't know. It's fine. Okay, we're gonna move on. We are going to talk about HCP Terraform today. If you don't know what HCP Terraform is, that's fine. HCP Terraform is the cloud service managed run capability for Terraform. So what that is a cricket. I can hear that cricket.
Oh yeah. He's doing his number. Sorry, I'll mute.
No, you don't have to mute. I was like, I didn't believe you had a cricket. And then now I'm like, it exists.
Well, and it's worse with my headphones, because my headphones are like the noise canceling ones. So like I won't hear it at all, but my main microphone will pick it up, so everyone gets to hear it but me.
Okay, that's fine. We'll just hear cricket. Chat gets to name the cricket then. Chat gets to name the cricket. So if you have a name for the cricket that's currently crashing the stream, please put that there. Okay, so HCP Terraform. HCP stands for HashiCorp Cloud Platform. You might have previously seen HCP Terraform as Terraform Cloud. That was probably as of like 5-6 years ago. And basically what we've been doing for 8 streams was run Terraform You Only Live Once on Richard's laptop. Now, that works fine if it's just Richard who's creating resources, in which case he has local state. Things are great. But there was this time in which Richard and I work in a shared sandbox for demo environments, for example. And let's say Richard wants to update the VPC and I want to update the Kubernetes cluster or whatever it is sitting on top of the VPC. Now we will have conflicts, right? Because does Richard go first? Do I go first? If Richard makes a change and all of the state is local, then what happens to my stuff, right? In which case, do I override Richard's stuff? Like, what does this mean, right? And it turns out state is very important. We talked about remote state before in, I think, episode 1 or 2. I think 2. But it turns out that there's a nuance to how you work and how you apply changes to infrastructure. Now we can talk all about how people are using autonomous agents and applying changes to infrastructure, and the agents themselves reason about the state of the infrastructure and apply those changes. But at the end of the day, when you have a human in the loop, you need some consumable method of applying very small changes to your infrastructure in a sequential manner, in which case state locking becomes very important, and the deployment mechanism also becomes important. So some folks use HCP Terraform to accomplish this. There is remote state in HCP Terraform. There's also some constructs that you might find useful, especially when it comes to environments, especially when it comes to isolating state, cross-state dependencies, things like that. So there are some interesting things that we will go through in HCP Terraform. Today, we're going to just start with the basics. So that will be workspace constructs, version control, I think is worth pointing out, and probably a little bit of registry. We'll just show the module registry for a little bit, but that's probably the main stuff we're going to show, just sort of the basics. There are more things that you dive into with HCP Terraform, and that could be policy as code. Those are past your initial free tier, though. So caveat to all of this, the way that HCP Terraform bills is resources under management, and you get 500 to start. Now, there's kind of like a debate on whether or not 500 is sufficient. If you're running in production, 500 resources probably isn't sufficient for you at some point. And then on top of that, sort of what comes out of the box, right? You do get sort of the run capability, the deployment capability, but you don't get, let's say, policy as code or run tasks necessarily, module testing, and some other pieces. So just keep that in mind. We are just going to show under the under 500 resourcing for now, because we have our large monolithic monolithic architecture that we had vibe coded. And now we're going to deploy it. That's about 129 resources.
Yeah, I think for run tasks you get one, I believe, that you can use in a bunch of different spots. So you get like what I would call like a true free tier. Like you can experiment with it, but it's certainly not enough for anything non-trivial.
Right. And that's something to keep in mind. If you are looking into it, just be aware that you may or may not you may or may not be able to use it for production workloads, right off the bat. It might be okay for like proof of concept or something. And I'm trying to get a link, but it's unfortunately kind of doing some weird things. Hold on. Let me see if I can get a link to it. There. Okay. All right, there we go. So that's to HCP Terraform. All right, so let's get started. I guess share your screen. And
Yes.
we have votes for Jiminy, the name of the cricket. Very classic.
When you had said that Chet could name it, I was thinking Geppetto, but I think that's the guy who makes Pinocchio. That's not the cricket.
Yeah, Geppetto is the puppeteer.
Okay. Or the cricket from Mulan, but I think his name is just Cricket. So that
it's just Cricket. Yeah, it's just Lucky Cricket or whatever, I guess. Lucky Cricket. I mean, I hope we have a lucky cricket today and that everything works. Otherwise, this would be a bit of a shame. We have to cut off the stream. How many crickets under management do we get? That's an excellent question. I think you only get the one lucky one.
Yeah, the one lucky cricket.
The one lucky cricket. Yeah.
Well, it's one cricket. It might be lucky.
It might be lucky, yeah.
It could just be an average cricket.
Right. Well, it's like in Mulan, you don't know if it's an average cricket or it is a lucky cricket, but the conclusion was it was a lucky cricket because it basically
because you found them in the snow.
Yeah, they survived the adventure, so it must be a lucky cricket. So you have to test your lucky cricket for like the amount of luck.
by fending off an invasion of I forget what the group was, some kind of a horde of some sort.
It was not correct, not historically accurate. It was
that wasn't based on inspired by real events like Law and Order.
I mean, perhaps very loosely, but it was if anybody has like studied Chinese dynastic history, it's very complicated. So, I would highly recommend it, but just if you do, just know it's extremely complicated. It's a very tumultuous history as well. Wicket. Oh yes, Wicket is an interesting one. Okay. All right. Can I share your screen without fear of showing secrets?
Yeah, screen is shared.
Oh yeah, for the game cricket. Yes, that's a great idea. Actually, we could name him Wicket.
Oh, I didn't even know that was a term.
Yeah. Well, isn't that the goal? Is that the goal? Is that what it is? Someone, I think, just correct me in the chat. I think that's the goal, isn't it?
Like the little sticks that you have to hit.
No. Those are the bats, and then
you have a bat, right?
You have a bat, yeah.
But then there's like the little posts that have like the lines.
Yeah, on them, I think that's the posts. Must be the posts. Okay, we've gone on a
This is now a cricket themed podcast.
I know. Detailed and inefficient. We're very detailed and very inefficient about this. Okay, so we have our very large Terraform deployment here, and it was vibe coded, and so afterward we weren't. If anybody's looking at why there's this icon of a little I don't know, entity in a construction hat, this is IBM Bob. It's a coding agent that we use. So irrespective of what coding agent you use, we're not really focused on AI in this stream. Most of it is that sometimes we'll occasionally have Bob expedite things because we get tired. Okay, so let's talk about HCP Terraform. So the first important thing about HCP Terraform is that for every state that you want to capture, it maps to a HCP Terraform workspace. Now, word of caution. there are such thing. I don't know, actually, Richard, if you know this, but there are such thing as workspaces in Terraform CLI.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Yes, it's very confusing. So there are HCP Terraform workspaces, and then there are Terraform CLI workspaces. So if you are not using HCP Terraform and you have the Terraform CLI, there are Terraform CLI workspaces, and then there's HCP Terraform workspaces. These are not the same at all. Like, have no relevance to each other. They literally have the same name, but have no relevance. So just be very, very cautious when you're looking at documentation, or if you're working with a coding agent and you're it's suggesting something like Terraform workspace command. That Terraform workspace command is not the same as HTTP Terraform workspaces. So if you're doing something with HTTP Terraform, don't just, hold on, just hold yourselves. Like, just be careful. And it is a hallucination in that case, just because it's the same word. It's just not the same concept.
Like a cricket the bug and a cricket the game.
Yes, correct. Yep. So HCP Terraform workspaces is what is sort of the atomic unit of a group of infrastructure resources that are managed by Terraform. But note that it's really it captures the state file. So you'll notice that, yes, this is the workspace view. So when you log into HCP Terraform, you have to create an organization. You can click the organization drop down on the left side. Yeah, there. So there are organizations here. Richard has created an organization, user, CDK, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so this organization is how you control access. It's how you control different things, right? We're going to get started with workspaces just to make it easy and just to talk about the concepts. And then we'll go into sort of the access control portions if we have time.
The user is left over from Community Day, Kansas City, and I didn't realize it until you just said something that does look like CDKC.
Oh, yeah. I was like, CDKC, does this have some relevance to it? I'm like, it's like this ID is very random.
For our game days that we put on, I have a thing that creates users for that, and it uses like a short code. So like it is mostly random.
Okay, excellent. So now we have a mostly random organization. Okay, so you've already started a workspace and you've planned it, but like if let's say we were starting sort of net new, we go back to workspaces, you would click new workspace, new on the blue on the left or the right side, right?
I would delete this workspace and start over.
Oh, you are going to? Okay, all right, we could do that. I thought we were just gonna, because it plans and it takes time, but that's okay. Okay, so you would create a new workspace. So you just do the new drop down and a workspace. Now, there are some questions people will give me like, why are you using a console? Because everybody knows that I'm desperately allergic to anything with a user interface. You can use the Terraform Enterprise provider. Terraform Enterprise and HCP Terraform are often used interchangeably. Terraform Enterprise is the hosted version of HCP Terraform, and so you can use the provider for both. You just point the endpoint to a different place, right? So if you like me are allergic to user interfaces for some reason, then you could do that. So if you click new,
what I always do is like I go into, so you have to set up the backend here, and if you just create, if this workspace name does not work, when you do a Terraform init, it will create the workspace for you.
Oh yeah, you could also do it that way.
So that's what I rely on, just because like with my luck, I would create a workspace and then I would create another one here, and I'd have like a misspelled word, and now I have two workspaces. I'm like, crap, which one's the real one?
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, we do that.
Yeah, you could also do that. I mean, we could just do Terraform init and it will create it. I think that might be fine too. Yeah, Wicket will make the decision. We're not going to let Wicket make the decision. Wicket is the cricket for those who are just joining. I see people who are like popping in and out. I'm like, yeah, we're going to have to explain. Okay, so same rules apply. If you do a Terraform init, it initializes your remote state. In this case, because we have that cloud block and it's pointing to the organization and the workspace, it will create the workspace, right? Now, when it first creates the workspace, here's something very important. Does it have variables, right? Because when you ran it locally, when Richard runs it locally, it injects the AWS access ID, and and is part of, I guess, your AWS config, right?
No, I had already. The mic cut out. You're asking about the AWS credentials for
Yes.
the Terraform plan.
Yes.
I had previously went into the. Oh wait, actually, there's none now. If I go into a workspace, yeah, because I deleted those.
Yeah, if you show, I'm going to turn off the camera again because somehow something is going on. Is someone Bitcoin mining in my house? I don't know. I got to go look. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we variables has nothing in it. And so there are a couple things that you could do, right? The first is that you could define the AWS secret access key ID and the AWS secret access key as environment variables and inject them into the workspace like that. The other thing that you'll see is this dynamic provider credential sets. You can use OIDC, AWS as an OIDC provider and set up dynamic credentials that allows Terraform to authenticate against AWS, right? And so you can separate based on workspace, based on project. And so you could do it that way, alternatively. Oh, are you going to do it? Okay. All right.
Yeah, it takes like 2 seconds.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah, so it'll review it. It'll ask for permission. It identifies the actual workspace that's being used. It gives you the workspace ID just in case you're in multiple organizations where there's a name. Anything that's generated by AI, I just skip, and then I click Allow Access. And then with this will create a IAM role, which we can go into in the IAM console. So this is the one I created earlier. This is one I just did, and it'll create the role with the trust relationship set up, but with no permissions. So it'll say, yes, I can assume this. I have tokens that are valid. Actually, I'm not sure if it has no permissions, if you can actually even check, are these valid? But I'm going to add just the administrator. This is going to be the deployment, both the plan and the apply part of the deployment. So just for the sake of this series, I'm going to give it administrator access. Normally, you would scope this to something like a developer super user or something.
Right.
Yeah. It has to do a lot.
Be very conscientious of how much access you provide, especially with dynamic providers. While the credentials are themselves ephemeral, right? So they will get issued, I think, per run. While they are ephemeral, they are broad. Whatever policy you apply can be very broad in scope. So you might decide to use access management analyzer just to double check what the actual permissions are. For the most part, you'll want to scope the credentials to roughly admin across the services you are deploying with Terraform, right? So, for example, in this architecture, we have EKS, Fargate, Route 353, S3, and a couple other CloudFront, things like that. And so we would want to scope to those services if we have a general understanding. And even better, you can use Access Analyzer to determine which API calls you're even using as part of the Terraform in the first place. So just be aware that you do want to narrow it down from a least privilege perspective. But this omits the need for us to put in AWS access key ID and AWS secret access key. Now, you could do it that way. There's nothing that stops you from putting those into the workspace variables, but it's much better and much easier to set up the dynamic provider credentials. At least they get revoked after each run.
Yep. And you can also, like, we use this quick setup thing. You could manually supply these workspace variables, like set this to true, give this the R for the role, and like the workload identity, which we left as default. That could help in cases where you work in an enterprise or an industry where you might not have direct access to the AWS account where it's being deployed. So you have to like submit a ticket and you have to give your workspace name. They will create the role for you and then give you the information back. And then you would manually specify these. This quick setup is great for, I would say, smaller businesses that are less tightly regulated.
Correct. Yes. So this is basically one way that you would inject any workspace variables, specifically the credentials. I think that's probably the most common variable that you would define as part of the workspace. It's just the credential for whatever provider you're running in Terraform. If you have all like other variables, I don't know if we defined any other variables or we set them all as defaults.
I think we set them all as defaults.
Yeah. So if you had like overrides or things like that, you could set them in workspace variables. I will talk about a different alternative method, but I prefer to do it the alternative method with some selective overrides if they're sensitive variables. So we'll talk about that pattern. But for now, I guess we could do a Terraform apply because we're doing a remote, we're using this for a remote apply. So there's kind of like 3 states if you go to settings. I guess settings is probably the best way to look at this. Settings, yeah. Execution mode. So there's kind of like 3 different execution modes, or 2 different. So there's remote, or actually there are 3. So there's remote, which means Terraform plan and apply runs on HCP Terraform servers. So it runs it for you on your behalf. Now there's some benefits to this, and that let's say, you know, you don't want it running on your machine, and you want to just sort of let it run and forget about it, then you could probably just do remote, apply, and be done. Local is for what we've been doing the past 8 episodes in which we plan and apply on our machine. The only difference is that HCP Terraform is the one that stores the state. So it would handle the locking, it would handle the state storage, but it won't actually run the plan and apply. That's on your local machine. There's a third way to do this, and that is through version control. We are not going to show version, or we will show version control, but we're going to pause on that. We'll get to that sort of later. But for now, we're just going to show the remote plan and apply. Since we've been doing a lot of local, so we'll do, if you go back to your IDE and you run a Terraform apply, we'll just go straight to apply because why not? We're not going to auto-proof, but so you'll notice that it does stream it from the HCP Terraform server back to your console. So it will wait to start it, and then it triggers it by CLI. So you'll notice that notification there. So if you are, let's say, doing something with agents in a coding agent, you're doing a coding agent, and you know you're saying, okay, I want to do a Terraform apply here. That coding agent, you know, would have the ability to just wait for all those messages to come back from Terraform, HCP Terraform. So the plan is to create a bunch of stuff. I mean, I guess we could look into it, but that's not really the relevant part of this. Yeah, so it's figured, it's planned, and then I think that you should be able to say yes in the terminal. So the UI will tell you it's planned, but you'll notice it actually waits for you to put yes, and then it will trigger the apply. So you don't even need to press the confirm and apply. You could do yes and then hit enter, right? And so then, you know, now there's like 2 schools of thought, right? If let's say you have some kind of compliance requirement where only certain people could approve, then, you know, you will go through here, right? You would have to go through the console. But for the most part, if you are someone who's just running this running this on your machine, you just want to make sure that it's kind of running asynchronously in the background, and you'll come back to it later. It doesn't really matter. You're not doing any significant collaboration or scale from an infrastructure as code perspective. You could just do yes on the, you know.
When we talked about the CLI, you said, like, you know, it's Terraform plan, and then if you just say Terraform plan, it just prints it and it says, here's your plan.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do from there. But you can say Terraform plan out and specify a file, and you can have that reviewed if that's the process for your team. And then later say Terraform apply this specific file. So you don't need any of the other files for that. You can just apply that specifically. Is there something like similar? How would that same workflow of someone does a plan, gets a plan, it is reviewed by someone else and then applied? Like, how is that done in HCP Terraform?
Yeah, so basically you would have in HCP Terraform, it's best done if you not using, let's say, a remote apply on your local machine, right? The best way to do it is to actually use version control. And what that will do is funnel that check back to sort of that review back to your version control. And that will allow someone to say, yes, I want to, yes, I want to merge it, or no, I don't want to, right? So it's part of, oh, go ahead.
Is that done like, say on like GitHub, like some contraption of GitHub actions that like manage that plan file, or is that all managed in Terraform, HCP Terraform?
So it can be, it's basically the run is done in HCP Terraform and the checks go back to GitHub, whether it be like the PR workflow or whatever. So you can add into your PR workflow, like go to HCP Terraform and then make sure. Now, the comments, like 4 comments to trigger the run, that does not exist natively in HCP Terraform. There's something called Atlantis that you can use that basically triggers the Terraform, that someone can comment and trigger the run. But yeah, I think the trick to this is to find what workflow works best for you. A lot of folks, they don't use this remote apply on their local machine. I mean, it works if you've got a team that's got 1 or 2 people and you just don't really care enough to put this in version control and hook everything up. But if you're in a much larger team, you'll want to put this in version control and then handle the approvals that way.
What if you're using a version of version control that's not supported by HCP Terraform?
There's nothing out of the box. If it's Git, right? I don't know if we support SVN, but we have Git.
Code commit?
Code commit?
AWS is code commit?
So it must be, though.
I don't think we do. I mean,
what is code commit like what is the back end of code commit?
S3. I mean, it is Git. It is Git based. It's like a thin Git wrapper around S3.
Oh, okay. Well, let me see.
Because I think the on paper official stance from AWS is that you should use code pipeline, and then as part of the release process, you got basically code build jobs in your pipeline that run the Terraform API, Terraform API calls.
VCS providers. Let's see. I'm looking at let me put that in the chat. I see questions. Oh, hi. I see questions in the chat. I will get to it. I promise. We're just taking tangents because we can. Let's see. Connect to VCS. So there are a list of VCS providers. We have GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, and ADO. To build custom integrations with VCS providers or for workspaces, refer to API-driven run workflow. So I guess you would have to build it yourself if you wanted to back it to S3, which is an interesting one. Oh, okay. Yeah, there's a whole document on how to do a VCS of your own, basically. Which, is interesting. It's a very interesting one. Yeah, so folks are curious. There's an API-driven one. It's a link to API-driven. So I think you'd have to build your own, I guess. I think you would do S3 versioning or something like that to correspond to.
You probably use the code commit part, but it wouldn't be nothing treats it like a native VCS integration. Mm-hmm. You end up having to write your own API wrapper layer.
Yeah, that's true. I guess while this is running, we can answer questions. Did you previously mention that HCP Terraform has constructs to mention dependencies between separate state directories? Yeah, so HCP Terraform does have a way for you to express dependencies between cross-state, right? So in the last episode, we did cross-state refactoring, where we talked about how to do dependency injection of dependencies across state. And we use the Terraform remote state data source. Now, the Terraform remote state data source that we used referenced a local state file, but you can use that Terraform remote state data source to also express dependencies between workspaces. So we'll show a little bit of that because we have 2 sets of workspaces. We have the underlying infrastructure, and then we have the refactored lambdas on top of it. So for the lambdas, we'll refactor that to do remote state through HCP Terraform. There is something interesting to be said about triggering dependencies between workspaces. So let's say I made a change to, in this case, the VPC, and I want to cascade that change to a downstream dependency, the higher level dependency like Lambda. This is not so easy in HCP Terraform. There is, I think, settings. If you go to settings, Richard, settings, I guess. If you go to run triggers. So run triggers will allow you to connect workspaces together. So if a change happens in one workspace then it will kind of cascade that change into the next workspace, the dependent workspace. So if, let's say I did change the VPC and I need to push that change out to the Lambda state or something like that, then we would connect that up. We'll show that part, but that is how you would do that in HCP Terraform. It doesn't come out of the box in Terraform CLI. Now, someone did mention Atlantis, and I mentioned that as well. If you are using Terraform CLI or something and you need a mechanism to orchestrate cross-state, then Atlantis might be able to help you there. Atlantis is an open source project that does sort of PR-based orchestration of Terraform. So it is this one for folks who are curious. Like I said, it's not officially supported in that I don't think we've made any significant updates to it in a very long time, but it does do Terraform pull request automation. So if you're curious about that, check it out. And then let's see, there's some questions there. VMware has disk change block tracking, a storage API to know which blocks have changed. Could TF have a state tracker service that could run, then state file could be deprecated? State tracking or graphs better? TF plans are very difficult to read, so even that would be an enhancement. Yeah. Oh, Wicked is back. Wicked is back.
I heard him.
Wicked the cricket is back. It was quiet. I think it knew we were talking about VMware. Broadcom now. So, we love VMware.
Wicked is a VMware stan.
Wicked is a VMware stan. Okay, so this is an interesting one because it is true, right? So we talked about the Terraform graph, and that basically allows you to roughly assess the blast radius and allows Terraform to do a depth first search down that graph to identify a sequence of changes. Now, as infrastructure and distributed systems get larger and larger, the dependency graph becomes much more complicated. And it's no longer feasible for us to do a depth first search on a very large graph, right? We have to be more conscientious about perhaps localizing it to subsections of that graph. And so there's this, for a very long time now, I've been thinking about this in that maybe there should be some kind of eventing capability where we're able to sort of notify on an event, like on a small set of resources within that graph, and only publish changes to that subset of resources, right? So that means that your state tracking is much smaller. There are tools out there, and there are vendor tools out there that do this with Terraform to a certain degree. And so you can check those out. But in terms of what is available, I think you could kind of get away with it with Terraform apply and targeting now, where you could target a subset of resources. And I think to a certain degree with coding agents and other AI agents, it makes it a little bit easier to identify smaller subsets and make smaller changes. Like I haven't built a skill for it yet. I'm working on it, but it would be kind of nice to have a skill that sort of forced you to scope those changes in a very small group of resources, rather than broad changes across a lot of dependencies. So the state tracker service, yeah, there could be some changes to state tracking, and there could be some more elegant ways to do it. But I think it might be a little bit easier now that we have some help. Okay. Did it? It's still creating. That's okay.
I was afraid it was stuck, so I went to check on it, and it just finised creating. So I think
it takes forever because we created a very large. So anyway, as we're creating this, you can probably do we could do settings or works. We could explore a little bit more in HCP Terraform. So besides variables, there's also states. If you click on states will give you the state file, which no state saved because it's still running. Search and import, we'll probably take a look at that at some point, but basically search for, it basically tells you how do you search for resources and then import them in. And so then variables, as we just talked about that before, there are variables, you have sensitive variables, you have workspace variables, and then you scroll down You have variable sets. Variable sets are reusable across multiple workspaces. So this is particularly useful if, let's say, you have a region. I use this a lot for AWS region, where I say, okay, in this project, in my case, let's say like in this project, I have an EKS cluster in staging, and this EKS cluster in staging gets deployed to US East 1. I'm really tired. I don't feel like setting AWS region across every single workspace. So I'll set a variable set, and that variable set has an AWS region variable in it, and then I apply it to across the project. So that's something you could do.
We could use it to set the partition variable.
Yeah, you could. Oh, or the partition, the partition, the poltergeist that for some bizarre reason is parameterized. Like the partition that really changes. Anyway, and then we could explore a little bit in settings, I guess, where we can examine a few other things. We have locking, so it tells you, you can force unlock it, which we're not going to do because we're running. You could set notifications. So, if you set it to Slack or something, you could create that. There's a webhook to Slack, to Teams, all sorts of nice things if, let's say, you want it to run.
No Amazon Chime. It's a shame.
I mean, I guess, does Chime support webhooks?
I think so, but I think it's like everyone's very worried about like data being exfiltrated, so they all support things coming into it, and you end up with the thing of like you end up having to do like a reverse proxy situation because like nobody wants to be on like the sending end of data. It's annoying.
Yeah. I mean, like, but it's a good question though, because like you were saying, like, how do you orchestrate approvals? You could do notifications through a webhook. So if you had more custom things that you wanted to do, like let's say a product manager was supposed to approve on a change for some reason or another, right? You could say only certain events, and then that gets signaled to that webhook, right? So you could do that to Jira. I don't know. Some people I know have done it to Jira, or it's like a ticket or something that's associated with. Policies we're not going to talk about because policies are not enabled right now. I think we get one run task. Yeah.
Yes.
So run tasks.
I think policies and run tasks are better like described at the organization level because you create them at the organization level and then you apply them to a workspace.
Yes. There we go. So, and then SSH key if you want to clone things. And then, so I think for the most part, did it finish applying yet or no? Oh yeah, you have one run task. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, you get one run task, but then you can apply it to any one of your steps or any of your workspaces. Right. But it's just like one. For the audience, a run task is at various points in your release, you will want to like you want to do something with the configuration, like it's the plan, it's I think the actual Terraform code itself, some information about the context in which it runs, and that's all bundled up and then sent to some endpoint that you define. Now, the most common example I think is the Wiz run task, which then scans it, looks to see, are you building something that has a known CVE? Are you using an AMI that they know is compromised? Well, I think AWS would take those down, but are you using AMI that they just today realized was compromised? Stuff like that. Or finance ones are popular, FinOps. So you can say, how much is this change going to, if this plan were applied, how much would my bill change each month based on some metrics that each company comes up with? It's their secret sauce. And that's a use case for run tasks of, it's a generic hook where you can just throw all of your configuration stuff to get some data back. And then there's a formatted response that needs to come back to say, yes, you're good, or no, it's not good.
Yeah. And if folks are wondering like what is available to you, or do you need to write them yourself? No, you don't need to write them yourself. There are run tasks available in a registry, including the AWS IAM Access Analyzer, or you could use Amazon Bedrock to analyze your plan, things like that. So these are all run tasks you can add to certain stages and sort of improve your capabilities. Maybe we'll show run tasks in another one because they do require sort of a vendor setup. So
I have a vendor setup for one for the game day, so we can. That'll be a real easy stream for us to do.
Oh, okay, yeah. So there we go. Someone has it at least. Okay, so there you go. It's now we can check out states. It should have states now available to us, and you'll notice that we're not going to scroll through it because in case there are secrets available popped out there. But there are ways that you can search through and filter the state from the UI. Alternatively, you can also still do the same exact thing in your CLI. You could use Terraform state list and you'll still get the same information, right? So none of this changes any of the patterns that we've shown in earlier streams because we did remote state. So for the most part, it's not really anything special. I shouldn't say that, should I? I should be careful saying that.
Well, and I think it comes back to the same like philosophy that Mitchell had of like the whole point of Terraform is what you call workflow portability. That like you can follow the same set of steps whether you're using Azure, AWS, GCP, OCI, NVIDIA, and you don't have to like wildly change your workflow each time you like change CSPs or you're interacting with something on a different CSP. I think this extends that of like you're working locally on your machine using local state, and when you transition into using remote state, a lot of your workflow should stay as similar as possible, so there's no like mental burden for that. So I describe it an extension of the philosophy of workflow portability. Terraform.
Yeah, it makes it a lot easier too. It's like it shouldn't be very eventful, right? Like moving this to HCP Terraform or any remote state should not be terribly eventful. Basically.
But I am going to clip the audio of you saying HCP Terraform is nothing special.
Don't take it out of context. Don't take it out of context. Anybody who's listening to it, it was just nothing eventful. I shouldn't say special, but nothing eventful. Whatever. I get enough spicy hot takes, like I have no dignity anymore. Okay. All right. There's an interesting question in chat, and someone mentioned that they're doing depends on across directories. So that's a very tricky one because there's not really anything in Terraform that expresses depends on cross state, right? There's kind of like two ways to do this. The first is manually remember that once you make changes to one, it must make changes to the other. You could set a run trigger in HCP Terraform, or what larger organizations that I've chatted with end up doing is publishing the outputs that like a value that they know changes, right, from one to another state. They publish that to a key value store. And there is a event stream that's set up so that when there's a key value store change event happening, it will trigger the run for the higher level workspace. So unfortunately, that system has to be outside of Terraform. It doesn't quite currently exist. So you have to kind of put it together yourself. Oh, lots of outputs here. Yeah, lots of outputs. One thing that you'll have to know is that if you do have sensitive outputs, you should also mark them as sensitive in your Terraform configuration. So in our case, we don't have anything sensitive, like we don't have passwords getting output. But if you did see passwords or things like that in here, it would be marked as sensitive and it would be redacted. Now, it doesn't redact it from plan, or it doesn't redact it from, well, it does redact it from plan to a certain degree, although you have to be careful with that. But it will redact it from the outputs here. And if you do want to access it, you can access it. If you go back to your IDE, you could do Terraform output, and it will retrieve all that information from the resource there. There you go. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're going to, I guess, state JSON. There we go. My question, is this committed up to a repository? It is committed up to getting into Terraform, right?
This not yet. I haven't pushed it yet. No.
Okay.
I mean, it's in the repo locally.
Okay.
But I haven't. I can push it if you want.
Yeah. Let's just double check. There's nothing like state. You didn't save state as part of your commits and stuff.
No.
Yeah, before we do anything, because the next thing is that while remote apply is fine, like I said, for maybe one or two people, I highly recommend you do this all through version control. That way you can audit who is making changes. If you're in an enterprise, you're typically going to attach, let's say, a ticket number or a backlog number to commits for auditing reasons. So that allows you to do that as well. So just put it all in version control if you can, and then we're going to set up HCP Terraform to do version control. Don't commit scratch. Actually, we should just do a get ignore. There's a lot going on here. We don't need to, yeah, we could just, yeah, just don't. Actually, scratch is already in there. Wait a second. Scratch has already been committed, right? For other things?
Well, I just did an add.
You copied it over. Okay.
Yeah, so I copied the whole repo from the monolith repo.
Yeah.
Well, I cloned that repo, and then we did a bunch of work in there, and then I copied all the files from that repo into this one.
Okay. I mean, we could leave scratch in there just for audit reasons, and because there's some architecture and stuff and whatever. I use that because I was vibe coding it, so I was writing it to scratch, just a scratch file, just so that I could remember what I was doing.
I'm trying to remember the format.
Yeah.
I think it's that.
It's okay. I mean, yeah, you could just also just not commit it. You could just delete scratch because it's not like we need it. I think we've gotten past this point where we've already, yeah, we can force them. Or just keep it. I guess that's not a big deal. Okay. What else is in here? We don't want state. We don't want state committed up. State.json. Is that? Yeah, we don't want that. Remove the state.json because we don't want that committed up. Anything else that we don't want committed? Assets can be removed just to like clean things up a little bit. We don't really need the assets. Those are the original architecture diagrams. I mean, I guess we could keep the architecture diagrams. They don't take up that much space. And good for context, I guess. Yeah, those, by the way, shout out to AWS Well Architected Framework because those are from AWS. Anything else here? Reservation system. That's fine. Scratch.txt. What is scratch.txt in
that was something that we made when we were trying.
Right. We were trying to do that. Yes. Okay. Delete that. We don't need that. And then I don't know what the import TF backup. We don't need that anymore either.
That was me trying to move the stuff like.
Oh yes.
Like cleaning up, preparing for today. Yeah.
Yeah. Import TF backup is no longer relevant. Log.txt also no longer relevant. Plan.json. Plan.json. No, we don't need that one. Okay. I think we're good there. Anything else? Yeah, I think we're pretty good. Yeah, do a git add and then we'll just kind of zero out everything. Okay, there we go. What's left? Committed. CloudFront. Yeah, I think it should be fine. And then you can add the git ignore, I guess. And we'll be good. So, ignore. And then there we go. Okay. Let's double check that none of this has cried buckets while we do this. Okay, so it is now up on getting into Terraform, which is good. Now, let's see. We have a couple other important things to do. So we are going to connect version control. So this is, I would say, probably the most important step for HCP Terraform if you're going to use it, and that is connecting a repository that you have of Terraform configuration to HCP Terraform. And that's because most of the time when you are using it, doing infrastructure as code, you want to do it through version control, right? Otherwise, you kind of lose the whole point of infrastructure as code. You want to be able to track changes. You want to be able to apply changes in sort of the minimal blast radius that you can do. And so it's good practice, even if you're not using a coding agent. And if you are not familiar with infrastructure as code and you are vibe coding it, we talked about this before, make smaller commits. Please make smaller commits and apply those changes because you lose sight of exactly what things you've introduced into the system. and also it ensures that you can create infrastructure progressively, right? Rather than trying to create all at once. Okay, so now let us connect this up. It is committed to HashiCorp Dev Advocates getting into Terraform. So what we're going to do, yes, in 08 session, what we're going to do is we're going to go to HCP Terraform. Have you done BCS before in HCP Terraform? I think you have, right, Richard?
Yeah, I have to do like the OIDC supplements.
Yeah. Okay. So let's do this without the OIDC thing first. So you go settings, and then what you'll do is for an existing workspace, there's a section called version control. And so you'll connect it to version control. And now when you connect it to version control and you click version control workflow, you have the ability to select the version control provider, and this will set it all up for you. So we'll do github.com. And I guess now you're going to log into GitHub.
Oh yeah, it's because I thought it was clever and I logged in, but it's because I'm in an incognito window, so I don't mess up my other ones. But,
oh, you could also just. You want me to take this down? Or...
No, it's. I
mean, I don't think you're going to show your password, but I also am like maybe your email. You don't want people spamming your email.
I post it publicly all the time. I'm trying to. The problem is I don't have OnePass. I forgot what password I used.
You were supposed to move everything over. Wait, what?
Well, no. What is it? What's the one we use?
Oh, okay. Wait, I understand, right? Because it's
LastPass, OnePass,
whatever. It's OnePassword. Yeah.
Whatever the company one is that we use.
OnePassword. Yeah. Okay. I took the screen off for now, just because, folks, we don't want. Everybody knows that the other thing that that makes me sad is when I accidentally expose my passwords on a stream, which. Wow, Richard does this. I have a very fun story. So I've been working on a demo, right? And so it's a very large cluster and Kubernetes cluster. I know everybody's like, why are you using Kubernetes? It's literally a very long story involving, it was a demo from another repository and I just kind of kept it around. And so I deployed it and I got a notification there was a crypto miner on it. I was very excited. I know no one's supposed to be excited about a crypto miner, least of all like compliance and security, and which security did shut it down. So I was okay with that. But I was extremely fascinated by this whole thing because I wanted to figure out if I could like remediate it in some way in my Terraform configuration. I'm still in the process of teaching a coding agent to do it properly. But yeah, it's been very entertaining. I was like, this was the most exciting thing ever. I don't know why I was so excited about this. I was like, oh, give me all the alerts. So I went running around looking for the alerts and for all the documentation on it. It was very exciting. Only slightly less exciting than Wicket the Cricket, who, yes, Chad is saying Cricket has been chirping Richard's passwords in Morse code for the whole live stream. It could vary. Wicket might be a very smart cricket for all we know. I think I should for these episodes I should create a an unofficial branded mascot for Wicket the Cricket. All right, are you good? Can I share them?
I am not. It's being annoying. It's because our like organization requires you to have to like authenticate with the organization. So I was trying to log in through like.
Can you do it on not incognito window?
Yeah.
Yeah, just like copy paste the Terraform URL, HCP Terraform URL. Oh, yes. Hold on. I forgot. Folks requested music, waiting music. Let me pull that up. Folks are like, do we have music? They have sound. Oh, background music. Okay. All right, everybody. I'm sorry if anybody has earphones. I'm going to turn it kind of low. What is feeding the ducks? Oh, there we go. Doing some feeding the ducks while we log in. I promise I'll turn it off soon. Okay. Yeah, so I would say that anybody who is looking at HCP Terraform, there are probably questions of like folks asking very honestly, and as you should, why should I bother with HCP Terraform? there are a lot of things that come with HCP Terraform that might just make it easier, especially if you're someone who's getting sort of started at scaling infrastructure as code across your organization. It just makes it a little bit easier. All of this is something that you could build yourself, right? You could use S3 for state storage. You could use CI, your CI/CD, whatever your CI/CD tool is for orchestrating a Terraform workflow. And you could do all of this yourself. Like prior to HCP Terraform, this is basically all I would do myself. However, if you can avoid writing and doing it, like maybe HCP Terraform is something that you want to look at because you don't necessarily specialize in a CI/CD pipeline. A lot of large organizations who are looking at HCP Terraform are looking at it for the module registry because they have internal private modules that they want people using and not public modules. These are internal modules that are vetted from a security standpoint. So they prefer people prioritizing the private modules. There are a lot of policy controls around how you would use these modules or use providers internally, right? So there's sufficient policy control from that perspective. And then other folks are looking at policy as code, which is basically allowing you to define your own policies to make sure Terraform is not running. Now, there's an argument to be said, can't I shift these policies really far left now, right? Why can't I put this in the IDE to like for secure information? That's fine, and it works just great. But there are some reasons you may not want to shift it far to the IDE. Sometimes people are saying, oh, we want to use commit to do this. Some are now saying AI agent. Do you really waste your token doing that? Really sure. Again, what you personally prefer, right? So if you have policies that all exist for your organization and then you scan forced across all of your bases, all of your infrastructure as code, then, you know, a platform like HCP Terraform, fine. Did you get it working or no?
I didn't. It's really trying to piss me off. Because they tell us like let your password expire and only use like the passkey stuff for authentication, but this like requires a password, and then it like one password is keep retrying it over and over again, and then like I got locked out of Okta.
Can you do this without BC, without the BCS, without?
No, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna log into my personal GitHub, and I'm gonna connect it to my personal GitHub account.
Because you could also just add me to the Terraform workspace, and I could do it. Right? I think that would work if you add me to it. Hold on, let me just send you my username, and then you can add me to the workspace. This is collaboration real time, everybody. Don't just go adding my email because this is a whole other thing. Actually, yeah, I think it's okay. Here, yeah, use this. I will send it to you. Where are you? See if that works. And then if I get into that work, then that means that someone just mentioned careful ducks eat crickets. Yes, that's true. That's hilarious.
That's what we're feeding the ducks. Oh, it's AM. He is now accosting us on multiple platforms.
Yeah, on Twitch. Yeah, that's fine. I'm okay with it. You could hop around platforms. LinkedIn is not the greatest for this. Not the greatest for live chat. It's all good. It all goes in the comments. Yeah, just add me to your org and then I can share my screen.
Okay.
That might be the best option. I do have to switch things around though, so stand by, everybody. We move you onto the other screen, and then I can hook up the VCS, and I think after that you could run it. So I'm refreshing. Am I invited? Do I have to check my email for this? No.
I'm not sharing my screen right now. I'm about to paste the email.
Okay. That's okay. No, I just took off I also stopped the ducks because I want to preserve everybody save Wicket, the cricket.
Valid by the user. Okay.
I think it should be done with that email, but I don't remember.
Oh, that's a weird email. Rosemary 420 no scope XXXXX.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yes. Okay, you've been invited to the organization.
Yay. Okay. Oh yes, I see. I have. What just happened? Oh my goodness. No, what did it just do? Accept. Okay, there we go. Okay, I think I should be, what? Accept. Allow me into the organization. Oh, okay.
Oh, you even use two-factor authentication. That's
Yes, I do. Because, all right, let me share my screen. We're switching things up. We're just temporarily allowing me to do this so that way Richard doesn't have to log into GitHub, which, you know, is very, very interesting. Okay, so now I'm in here. So this is the benefit of HCP Terraform. It's like you can invite a user in and they can help you do things. So I'm going to go to version control. I'll go to providers and I'm going to add a VCS provider. GitHub. Oh, it's already installed. Hold on. Let me go back to workspaces. And settings, version control, connect to version control. This one, GitHub app. What? I'll try again. Okay. We are in this one. And then we are in, oops, that is not what I wanted.
oh,
Choose a repository. That was too fast. Okay, where are we? It was getting into Terraform. I have a lot of repositories. So, okay. So here's the important thing, folks. You got to set the working directory. If you don't set the working directory, it just basically gets really upset as it can't find the it cannot find the correct infrastructure configuration.
yeah, it's 08 underbar session, all lowercase.
Okay. Oh yeah, 08 underscore session. Okay.
Wait, let me check the case on it.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So it needs to know the directory. Otherwise, it just, like, if you do it at the root working directory and there's nothing in it, then it kind of just gets confused. There's two VCS triggers that you could do with this. And I think we can argue all day about this, right? Because there's two different schools of thought on infrastructure as code, applying infrastructure as code changes. The first is doing it by branch-based. The second is doing it by tag-based. I usually use branch-based because I'm a trunk. I just push the trunk and make the changes. Like, you could talk all you want to about feature branching, and you could talk all you want to about trunk-based development. I usually do trunk-based development for infrastructure because I like those changes to be sequential. I find that when you have branches and you do plans, it's still not terribly reliable. So I don't really do significant like feature branching with infrastructure unless I absolutely need it. And then tags, I don't usually do tag-based. I don't know if you do tags, Richard, on tags for infrastructure as code. I don't find myself using tag-based for very often, but
I just realized all the problems I had, I could have just skipped because I'm a member of like 4 GitHub organizations,
yes.
And one of them was being super annoying about letting me in. But the one we actually wanted, the HashiCorp Dev Advocates, it was like, oh no, you're good. Like you could do this.
Yeah, right. It's fine. We got this set up anyway. Once it's set up, then you can run it too. So then I'll just add you back on the screen. And the other thing is that there's the automatic run triggering. Now, if you have a mono repo, like we have here, if you have a mono repo and you have a specific working directory, it is best you do patterns. Prefixes are not deprecated, but they're not exactly used anymore. The path pattern is better. So in this case, I'm just using a path pattern to say every file and every subdirectory under 08 session, right? Any changes to that, then trigger the run. I don't typically always trigger runs on my repos because I usually use mono repos for demo purposes. When I have multi-repos, like in production, you would actually have a multi-repo setup. When you have a multi-repo, this might not matter to you so much. And then you could do speculative plans. If you, let's say, some people will do this, not really necessary. If you have submodules for modules, for example, then like actual Terraform modules, not Git modules, but like if you have Terraform modules that are in a repository and you do some kind of submodule structure for it, then you can use submodules on clone. Again, I don't recommend it. We've kind of moved away from this. We learned it didn't scale very well. But for some folks, it's very important because maybe they have some kind of cache or something available. They want to cache it or something. Okay. So this means, oh, look, Richard just triggered a run. So we have get Richard's GitHub user, and then there's the commit, right? So the nice part is that you can look at the commit, and you can see all the information here as to what's going on. You'll notice there's even a check that pops up. So this is what I was, oh, wait, I'm not sharing this part of the screen. Share this tab. Come on, share this tab. Okay, here we go. So you'll notice that it pops up with sort of the check here. And so this check is what you can use to apply to PRs and things like that. So once it passes this check, right, you can apply it to PR review. But yeah, this is, should I share your screen again?
Yes.
Okay, let me share.
Okay, I am ready to share.
Okay, let me add Richard back. Let me remove this one and add. Okay. All right, so we're back. And now we're running. So it's playing finished. Nothing changed. So in HCP Terraform, nothing changed. So for the most part, we shouldn't see anything, you know, it shouldn't tell us anything has changed. If you use version control and then you made changes and then you push them, then here it would actually show you, you know, what has changed. But for the most part, we're pretty much good to go. The other thing that I want to point out is that you may notice a couple important pieces to, like, a couple differences in how you maybe want to structure your directories and things like that for version control versus for remote apply. One of the things I do is that in versions.tf, so the cloud block, I don't like putting the cloud block in the versions.tf. And there are a couple reasons for this. When you're doing version control, it's sort of like a little redundant to me personally, right? Because I know where I'm connecting the workspace and the organization. On top of that, to make it a little bit more modular, if let's say I move state, I don't want to have to go commit to version control and say I remove state, you know, whatever. It doesn't seem relevant to me because if I'm looking at this from a platform perspective, this is stuff that as perhaps a developer, I wouldn't care which organization it's in. I wouldn't care which workspace it's in. I only care because I'm a platform person who needs to manage it, right? So what I do is I create a backend.tf. And I put the backend.tf into a git ignore, into my git ignore. And I copy the Terraform cloud block. So you also need to include the Terraform block, but you copy the Terraform cloud block, you remove the required versions, you close off the bracket, and Terraform does a merge of these resources, right? And so what happens is that when it merges the Terraform blocks together, the backend configuration gets merged in. And so when I'm developing locally, I know it's pointing to the correct organization, it's pointing to the correct workspace. Not a problem there. But, you know, if let's say I commit, if I commit this, you know, I know that it's pretty much clean when it goes into version control. So no one's knowing which backend I'm using necessarily, right? So it doesn't really matter that much. This is really helpful when you're using multiple environments. Let's say you have a dev environment, you have a staging environment, you have a prod environment. You can switch whatever backend definition you have. Now, you could override it in your Terraform apply. You could override which backend it's pointing to. But for me, it's more elegant just to define a subset of Terraform files and, you know, to point it to the right backend. So yeah, here you can add those. I think you have to add the git ignore too, but you know, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine.
Oh, yeah.
But it doesn't matter. It's, you know, eventually you'll commit it next. Yeah, and then you can push.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it should run and nothing should change, right? Because we've already connected it to VCS. The backend just doesn't matter anymore, right? It's already been connected. So it will plan and it won't do anything other than maybe say plan and finish. Hopefully nothing happens. Now, the other thing that I do is that when I go back to backend, when I go back to my code base, the reason why I still keep the backend.tf is because let's say I want to do Terraform outputs because I want to extract the output. So you could still do Terraform output, right? And your local changes can still do plan. So let me see if there's a way is there something we can change in here, like a tag or something? I don't know. Did we define tags as a variable?
In one of the resources or as part of the outputs?
If you go to provider, the versions.tf, I think maybe let's change the default tag or something. So it's not yeah. So if you could add a default tag, or you could say the project is 08 session or something. So we'll change the default tag. And so yeah, 08 _ session or whatever it is, because then we can say, okay, this is the tag for this group. You can do a Terraform plan, and you'll still get information on whether or not this dry run works or not, right? So you can still do a Terraform plan, and it will still return that information. So you can go to this. You can still see the plan in the UI of HCP Terraform. You can't apply it, right? So that's the important thing. You cannot apply it because once you hook up to VCS, you cannot run a Terraform apply. But you can run a Terraform plan, and this gives you the capability of understanding what the dry run looks like. So from a workflow perspective, if Richard and I were collaborating on this together, I could still run a Terraform plan and check my changes. And then he could run his changes, do a Terraform plan to verify his changes, but it wouldn't necessarily get applied until after we push, right? So you'll notice that it tells you, okay, here's the plan. It has 34 to change. This is how it's changing. So then when you go back to your IDE and you do a git commit, git add, git commit, change tags or whatever. There you go. Yeah. Now, if you try doing a Terraform apply, you'll notice that, I mean, it's already locked, but it will basically tell you it's VCS backed. So it's not going to, yeah. So a workspace that's connected to VCS requires VCS. So it basically enforces the fact that once you connect to VCS, you are already doing VCS. There's nothing, you can't, I mean, you can decouple, you could remove the VCS provider and go back to remote apply. So that doesn't get affected. But once you start using VCS, you can't just go and remote apply unless you remove the setting. Alternatively, the other thing that folks might be curious about is like, well, what happens if I don't want it auto approving? If you go to settings and you go to general, oh yeah, auto apply. Oh, actually version control too. There you go. So auto apply.
It's like unchecked.
Yeah. So you could auto apply if you really want to.
But it is auto applying? Like it's already auto applying, right?
No, it will pause.
Oh wait, it hasn't done it yet. That's right. It hasn't, because it's just been a no op each of these times. So, yeah. Okay.
So wait for a human approval. If you don't want a human approval to apply and you just want to go TF, you only live once, Terraform, you only live once, then check off this box. It's great. Okay, we're gonna do that, I guess. So now let's update the, first of all, let's do a couple things. So what I do in terms of expressing the, oh yeah, you have to still possess the current one. So you just confirm and apply. Confirm. You don't actually have to explain it, but you don't have to add a comment. Okay, so a couple important things to do. The first thing is we have actually two states that we need to create. So we can imagine this is part of a project. So Richard, let's go back to the workspace view and create a new project. So projects are a way to group workspaces. This is pretty important, actually. If let's say you have different lines of business and you want to give them their own workspaces, projects are sort of another layer of access and logical grouping. So let's call this project 08 _ session, right? Because that's episode 8, right? And so we can create it. And what this will do is allow us to add workspaces to the session. So we'll take our existing workspace. So if you go back to the workspace view, we're going to go back to getting into Terraform, and we're going to go into settings, and we'll change the project. So by everything goes into the default project by default. But it's probably better just if you're in a large organization to assign to projects, right? So a line of business. On top of that, we're going to rename the workspace because this isn't terribly descriptive, I guess, or it's not really descriptive of the grouping. So I usually change the workspace to something that's a little bit more descriptive. Maybe you could say base infrastructure or whatever, or 08 session base infrastructure. The weird thing about projects that I don't necessarily like is like you still need to prefix, like workspace names still need to be unique. So in HCP Terraform, workspace names still need to be unique. So the common structure for most organizations that I see is line of business or project or whatever, descriptor of the logical grouping, and then the and or environment sort of in the middle. So it could be something like 08 session dev base infrastructure, right? Or 08 session staging base infrastructure. They have to be unique names. So as a result, it's helpful to prefix it with some kind of description. So in this case, it's 08 session base infrastructure. Now that we have this, we have to change our backend.tf. So if you copy 08 session base infrastructure, because it's not backwards compatible. So you have to do that as part of workspaces. There's no project definition required in your Terraform block. So this way, this allows you to still do like Terraform init. If you do a Terraform init and Terraform output, you still get all the outputs that you want and stuff like that, stuff that you want.
Oh, and because the workspace names have to be unique,
yeah,
there's no need for a project here. Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I don't think it actually honors the project anyway. There's no way to specify a project in the cloud block, as far as I recall. So it's not like you could search based on that either, which is a whole other problem. Okay, so now that we have base infrastructure, we have the reservation system, which exists as kind of like a subdirectory, right? So this is the higher level dependency we refactored. We have the low level dependency, which was the base infrastructure, and then we have the higher level. And so we're going to create a new backend.tf, right? And use that. And then we'll do 08 session reservation system. Right? Again, trying to keep some kind of descriptor. Let's check versions for the reservation system, because I don't know if we defined anything in here. Did we define anything in here? No. Okay. We could change the project to 08 session. As a note for those who are like, I don't know what else to think about this. I use what is called, I call a prototype pattern, where basically I define a tag module, and those have the standard tags that I expect. And so I always reference that prototype module. Okay. Then the other thing we need to do is the remote source. So previously on episode 8, we set a Terraform remote state data source to refer to a local state file. I think it was in data.tf. Not that one, because that's the root. So we go into reservation system. Yes. So you'll notice that everything that we had to get in terms of the VPC ID, VPC CIDR, we were looking at a local backend. We are going to change this because we want it to refer to the Terraform, HCP Terraform workspace, right, for base infrastructure. So what then you'll do is, I believe it's, let me remember, I think it's cloud. I think it was cloud, not backend cloud. It's literally just the cloud block. Or
data has changed.
Oh no, never mind. Backend remote. Sorry, backend remote. Yeah, so it's backend equals remote. Remote, and then config equals organization. There we go. Organization equals .org. And then workspaces equals squiggle bracket. Name equals that, the base infrastructure. 08 session base infrastructure. Yeah, there we go. You can parameterize this. So let's say you wanted to make a variable like organization. What I do, we should do it this way, actually. So set for organization, set a variable called TF_organization org. So you could do var.tf_org. And I think you have to do lowercase because then it just does this whole thing, confusing thing. Okay. tf_org, create a variable declaration for it. So variable tf_org. Don't forget the quotes around tf_org. Yep. And then description is HCP Terraform organization. There's not, I wish there was an implicit variable that we had like out of the box for this, but we don't. And then type is string. And I don't set a default for a lot of my demo repos do have a default, but we're going to not set a default for a couple reasons here. I do want to show like a variable set. So if you go CD reservation system, and I think we should be okay here. So CD reservation system. And then if you format and then initialize it, I think it should create the workspace. And then we can move the workspace. Right. Okay. So it should create the workspace. We should see a new workspace called reservation system on HCP Terraform. And it would automatically create in the default project, which is a bit of a pain. So we have to move it over. Oh, it's thinking. Okay. All right, there we go. So we'll move that over. So if you click on that and you go to settings, we'll move it over to the, if you move it from default to 08 session or whatever it is, I think, scroll up. Yeah, there you go. And then we will save the settings. That's the other thing that we have to make sure we do. And then version control. And we'll connect it to version control. Version control. There we go. GitHub app. And then select. Yep. And then the working directory, we make sure it's 08_session/reservation_system. And then I would copy that because that's the working directory and we want to trigger everything under that. So under only trigger runs and then go to patterns and put that and then */ */*. So that basically says anything under that directory and then add pattern. And then I think that's just good. Then we say update VCS settings. Yeah. So here's something very important to know. When you do Terraform remote state and you are referencing another workspace, you have to give access to downstream workspaces to access that attribute. So if you go back, what I mean by this is that reservation system depends on base infrastructure. You have to go to the base infrastructure settings and you have to go to, if you scroll down general, so don't navigate away from this. There's a section that says remote state sharing. You need to tell it very clearly that it's allowed to share the information with the workspace. Now, there's two schools of thought. You could share this with all the workspaces in the project, in which case, if you're very diligent about your project structure, very diligent about your access control, then you could say, okay, share with all the workspaces in the project. This typically happens, I would say, with like VPCs, right? If you create a VPC, you probably want to share the VPC ID across all the workspaces in the project. But there are some reasons in which you wouldn't want to share everything. So a common example of this for me is like, let's say I have a database and the database gets created. It has a set of root credentials, and then eventually I'll pass it to Vault to rotate on my behalf. In that case, I'll only share it with sort of the Vault workspace for the database, for configuring the database extension, right? So use your own discretion. For the most part, you'll probably share with only specific workspaces. And so you'll save the setting. Oh, I think Richard just exited himself. He just yeeted himself out.
What happened?
Did you just exit yourself out of?
No, I thought I saw a comment and I was like, oh, let me get that. And then What is going
Wicked
on?
just kicked you out of the chat, I think.
Wicked, I hate you.
Wicked the cricket just kicked you out of chat.
No, yeah, I reloaded because I keep like the LinkedIn window open with
Yeah.
the comments in LinkedIn. I thought I saw something come in over there, so I refreshed it because like LinkedIn is weird where it'll like randomly crash the page and
That's
you have to like
hilarious.
reload it. And I was like, wait a minute, where'd my stream go? Okay, save that. Oh wait,
Great.
I gotta share my screen. Share screen. Entire screen. Share. Okay, sharing.
Okay. All right. Let me pull that up. Okay. Back to it. So save settings.
I did. It's just the
Okay, you did save
toast
settings.
went
Okay.
away. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So then now we were going to set a variable, right? So now we're going to set a variable for the Terraform organization. So you go to settings. What I do, this kind of is a debatable thing, but like variable sets, and then I create variable set, and then I'll usually say like 08_session. So I'll prefix it with the exact project again, because sometimes I just want it specific to the project. And then I only want to apply it to certain projects. You pretty much only want to apply it to certain things, and only reservation system. The reason why that you might want to be more or less selective about this is that you want to make sure that anybody who is accessing this variable is actually legitimately allowed to use it and going to use it. If you, let's say, apply this to the base infrastructure workspace, it doesn't need the Terraform org, and so it will throw a little warning banner, which is irritating. So, you can also set priorities. So the general rule is that if you set a workspace variable, it will override a variable set. However, you can put a setting here that enables you to prioritize the variables in the set. So basically the set overrides any of the individual workspace variables. All right, create. Okay, there we go. And, we didn't add a variable. I forgot. You could go up to go to variable set, but then there's an edit the variable set on the right side. Yeah, so click on that. You have to click on that. We didn't actually edit organizational variable set. Click that. And then we're going to add tf_org. And then that would be user cdkc979f7ed. So why do I not put this in version control? I personally don't, because maybe I have multiple orgs and I switch between them, right? If it is a sensitive, be sure to save the variable set before you navigate away. If you do have a sensitive variable, you can mark it as sensitive and it will redact it, right? So that someone can only write to the variable, they can't read from it. Okay, so let's go back to workspaces, and then I think we can commit the reservation system one now. I want to say we can. Yeah.
Since we set the trigger for 08 for base to be just like /08 session, *****.
Oh, you have a point. Yes. You are correct. We should fix that. Settings, and then we only want it to trigger on, I think, *TF, right? So we can remove that pattern. That is correct. You are absolutely correct. I forgot about this. Very important point. Where it's just like *.tf, anything that's the Terraform, right? And then add pattern, and then we can delete the other one. And then anything that's a lock file, I guess, right? So like .ter 08 session. Oh yeah, it does this. Yep. 08 session /.tf. /.terraform.lock.hcl. Because I think we committed the lock file too. So yeah, and then anything under modules as well, I think will also change. Although, do we use modules? Yeah, we do. Okay. And then also 08/modules/star, I think. /modules/star. Yeah. So anything
under the other one where I do it like this.
Yeah, you could do it that way too. Yeah, that works too. So anything under modules that changes, anything that's a .tf file that changes, anything that's a Terraform lock that changes, should trigger a change in the base infrastructure. And then we update the VCS settings. For reservation system, we should probably also add the module pattern to the session modules, because reservation system also uses that submodule directory. So there's a science to this. You know, you'll have to figure some of these things out and kind of figure out how does that, you know, how does that work for you? So modules /*. You'll have to just trial and error. And sometimes these things may or may not apply either. So then you have to go back and fix the pattern. Okay. We should be able to commit and push the reservation system now.
Oh, wait. How to do it? Yeah, I want to. Oh, wait. Yeah, I want to change all that. I thought I had changed. Why is there no reservation system? Oh, it's up. It's up 2 more. That's why.
Aha. Because you're in 2 levels of inception.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the
subdirectory and subdirectory.
Yeah, I was trying to remember the syntax for that.
Yeah.
Is there an example on here?
It's so funny.
Let's Google it. Oh, crap. Oh, go away. Sorry, I accidentally opened up all of my notifications. Okay.
Do not disturb.
Yeah, I do the do not disturb so it doesn't like pop up in the middle
I know,
of my
yeah.
thing, and then I open it myself.
You did it. It's great. Good work.
Star, that's what it was. There we go.
Oh, there we go. All right. Let's hope it works. And now I think you have to start a run manually for a workspace for the reservation system. Yeah, I think you have to start it manually because the event hook doesn't just like magically go there. So yeah, you'll have to start a new run manually. Yeah, so start. Now the question is, oh, we didn't set variables, did we? For dynamic provider credentials? We didn't set up dynamic provider credentials for this workspace, did we? For AWS? No, so we should probably set it up. It'll fail because I think we, yeah.
Oh, but this one I don't. I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna do this one manually.
Oh, you're just gonna copy over the variables from the other
because it'll like with this one it'll create a new role like a and it's like
right, but the role doesn't have a wildcard, right? Because once it creates the role, it's pinned to the workspace.
Oh, that's
oh yeah, I guess we should probably talk about this because so when you create the role, it creates it with the specific workspace name.
Oh, actually, neither one of them are going to work.
Yeah, because it's under default project. So basically, the string like needs to be updated because the subject claim has changed. So you need to manually put that in. As for the project, you could do 08_session, and then workspace could be star, right? So we could do any workspace under that project is now able to use these credentials. So you folks, like keep this in mind when you do the wizard setup, the quick start setup. It will hard code the project and it will hard code the workspace name so that it's very specific to that project, very specific to that workspace. You can be more generous, like with a wildcard or something like that, to set it up properly. But at the end of the day, you have to make those changes. What I would do is I would actually create this as a variable set, Richard, because it's the same role ARN, right? So if it's the same role ARN, it's the same, yeah, it's the same set of things. We could create it as a variable set, just add it to 008 session. So if you go to settings and then variable sets. So this is where credentials as a variable set is really helpful. You know it applies to this set of projects, right? And so then you can just copy those and then set them at the variable set level. Makes it a little bit easier. And I think they have to be environment variables, right?
Yes.
It's weird, which is interesting to me. Never thought about that, but and then you need the role ARN, which we did change the role to the correct permissions. And so the correct subject, which should now allow everything under that project to run. And then these should be injected automatically. So hopefully this should work. And just for cleanup, you could delete the variables in the base infrastructure as well, but that's optional. I mean, they're the same thing, so the override doesn't really matter, but for cleanup, you might decide you're going to change, you might clean it up. So now that we've added the variable set, it should now have sufficient credentials for the reservation system to run. And we also changed the role too. So the role has a broader allowance for any workspace in that project to run. Something important to also know is that, I guess there's a bigger question of, do you want to be specific on workspaces? You probably could get away with not doing it. Now, if you really wanted to be really specific because certain roles had much broader access, then yes, you maybe have like a project and then a specific workspace for a broader set of access policies. There's a way, if you notice in Terraform, HCP Terraform, there was a setting that says create a role, create two roles, one for plan, one for apply. For a number of providers like AWS or Azure, you can do a plan with read-only credentials and then an apply with write or admin credentials. So it allows you to do two sets of credentials that sort of allow even more allow least privilege depending on
this is where you'd limit it. You'd set this this to plan and apply respectively.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. If anybody's kind of so here we go. There's something else that failed. And the problem is we don't know what failed until after it stops running. So it's not happy about something. What it's not happy about, I'm not sure, but we'll find out. Yeah, we could open that and see how it goes. We got through quite a few things today, actually, kind of like the initial stuff. Let's see. What else? IAM role.
It's that secret. I swear.
Oh, it's because the 7-day thing. It hasn't been 7 days. That's been 7 days.
I deleted it this morning. That's why. Because I deleted all the stuff we did locally. I deleted.
Yeah.
It's also trying to create a role resident.
Okay. Can you download the raw log file? Just download it.
Yeah.
Okay. Just download it and then put it into the Scratch directory in Bob. We're not going to waste our time. Just move the whole file and shove it into the Scratch directory, and then we'll just tell Bob to import to write the import blocks for us. Because
I deleted the Scratch.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's fine. It's okay. You could also just do a top level. I just put everything in a Scratch directory though, because then I can tell what's actually important and what's not. So tell Bob, write import blocks for the resources in @run-j something.
The
errors in resources, in @run whatever, and then change to code mode because it will definitely code mode, and do it under before. Oh, I have a feeling it's not going to know where to put them, but it's fine. I thought you turned off Do Not Disturb.
I did. I had it.
Oh, you did turn it on.
Do not disturb.
Something is going on where Outlook decided what it was going to pop up with.
Yeah, it's like this meeting that never happens is absolutely critical.
Okay, so I think that should be okay. Okay. I mean, do we trust that this works? I don't know. But Terraform plan, and let's see if this is actually appropriate. This import actually worked. Don't do the generated config. I mean, I guess you could do the generated config, but what's the point? I don't need to generate config, but at least it put the import in the right place. So I'll take it. So if you're wondering why is this plan actually getting my local Terraform configuration, the way this works is that everything gets bundled and zipped up. So when you run like a Terraform plan and you got a remote state, especially with specifically with HCP Terraform, the backend workflow underneath this command bundles everything into a zip file and uploads it to Archivist. And then it's an Archivist configuration file version. And that Archivist configuration file version gets passed to Terraform Cloud. Okay, see, it's an ARN. It goes to this thing again.
Yeah, it's deja vu of last week.
Why was it this last week that I fixed it? Why does it? I could just write a skill to do this from now on because this is just a pain. I swear, we've done this already. It's like, was it because it wasn't this? It was something else, right? The AWS Secrets Manager. I should have done, I should have just saved this as a note to self. It was an AWS secret. Yeah, secret. Yeah. What is the actual import command? The import command is an ARN and not that. So we need the whole ARN for password Aurora password part 2.
Oh, but it's
oh, there it is. I see it. It's there. Yeah. So we just need the whole ARN. Secret ARN.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it's not marked for deletion from deleting this stuff earlier.
Well, it should unmark it, right? Because once you run it with Terraform again, it'll just unmark it from deletion. We just need to import the current resource so it at least gets past the... How do you have drift detection turned on in this?
What's that?
You have drift detection turned on? It's like telling drift detected. Hilarious. Oh no, it's not actual official drift detection.
Mm-hmm. What are you doing? It's just chilling here. Okay, now it's done. Okay, done.
Okay, there we go. I think this is the last of it, and then we'll close out the stream, and then we'll be back next week. I want to say we'll be back next week.
I'm on next Wednesday is my son's birthday, so I'm out.
You are out. Oh, happy early birthday!
Thanks. We're teaching him to say his name's Timmy. You say Timmy is 2. So you say Timmy, how old are you? And he says Timmy is 2. But I'm also teaching him whenever he says that, don't tell anyone, to say that his Aunt Megan, who always comes over, say Aunt Megan farts. Every time someone asks him how old he is, he says Timmy is 2. Aunt Megan farts. So it'll be a nice surprise for his birthday.
How's that going exactly?
Oh, pretty well. Like he's almost blown it a few times because he'll just randomly say Aunt Megan farts, and they're like, where did he learn that? I don't know. Could have learned it anywhere.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. Could have learned it anywhere. Not that you were delivered. Okay, so see, at least it's doing something.
Yeah, something happened.
Why is it? It's importing and adding them, or it's changing them?
What? I wonder.
Oh, some things are imported, some things are added. Okay, that's fine. I'm okay with that. Okay, so yeah, we could do that and then just commit and let it apply because we know that it kind of pretty much already changed. Anyway, so you'll notice you can kind of do a mixed thing. And, previously you could run like Terraform import by CLI, but when you're doing VCS, it's just better to do the import blocks. So at least you have this, sort of the commit history of people importing things. previously when people imported things, you're like, I don't know if they did. It wasn't like there was any audit trail. So it was done out of band. And so if you're doing this now, use the input blocks that we showed before. It just makes it easier for you to audit it from a code standpoint. All right, I guess we can close out while this runs because why not? So folks, thanks for joining us on Getting into Terraform. This episode will be available on YouTube after the fact. If you want to find other episodes, maybe, I guess so.
Well, because there's that access control issue we have.
Yes, there's that access control issue, but I will force it. It will exist. It can't be like removed from the whole thing. But if you missed any of the previous episodes, check out our playlist. Otherwise, you can find all the episodes on the HashiCorp YouTube channel. In terms of recapping what we did today, we showed you a little bit of HCP Terraform. We showed you sort of the general approach, the workflow of how to use it, especially from the UI perspective, and how to do it with VCS. We sort of went through the patterns of how we connect things together and, deploy things, as well as some things you need to consider and change as part of your dependency injection. And so we're going to be out next week. So we're not streaming next week. I think we'll be streaming the week after. And then we'll come back and do more HCP Terraform, but we'll show probably more of the stuff that is, I would say, enterprise requirement sort of level, as well as those that are not on the free tier. So that will be probably more run tasks, because even though you get one out of the free tier, it's unlikely that you would probably need some other vendor product involved. So run tasks, a little bit of policy as code, I think. We'll do a little bit, not a lot, because that could be its whole stream. Or should I reserve that? I should reserve it. Maybe run tasks, run triggers. What else is in HCP Terraform that we could talk about in there? We could talk about stacks, I think. So we'll do those three things: run tasks, run triggers, and stacks, right? And we'll talk about those. So I think that should be pretty good. Anything I missed, Richard?
No. I learned a lot on this stream today. Oh, because I've always just used all the work I've been doing was for our game day. So it's one org, one workspace, one project. And that's a thing, right? So I haven't had to do anything with multiple projects or multiple workspaces in a project, and having a better understanding of how those should be structured and what you using. I never would have thought. I think about variable sets as an organization, and then it's applied to all the workspaces. Mm-hmm. Doing that at the project level just never occurred to me.
Yeah. So I do it a lot at the project level because I separate by demo. Or I'll separate by event demo. And so some events, I'll have one big demo environment and everything applies. But other times with certain events, I'll split the demos. And so that's why I split it by project setting. And so for
you're also better at cleaning up after yourself than I am, because I'll create a free tier account, deploy a bunch of crap in it, and then never look at it again.
Actually, you should use ephemeral workspaces. I think ephemeral workspaces are on free tier too. So after the stream, you could say oh, it's one day and then destroy, right? So for folks who are not familiar with ephemeral workspaces allow you to destroy your environment after a time window. Maybe we'll show that at the next stream too, but it might be useful in this case because we're only using this environment for the stream one day a week, and then we don't actually keep it around. So anyway, for folks who have hung out with us, thanks for joining us. With that, we hope that you'll tune in on the next episode.
Yeah, and we'll see if Wicket's still here.
Oh yeah, Wicket. All right, bye, Wicket.